Hi, welcome to my painting demonstration. Today I'm going to be painting a wood duck. This is for a commission of 3 paintings, essentially for a child's bedroom, and I'm going to be painting them in my standard style because the mother wants essentially the painting to be for the child, for their life. So we're not going to be painting a childish painting, but we are going to paint one that's going to be bright and entertaining and still be acceptable, essentially, in a nursery. So the first thing to do is to get around the coat on this canvas.
Bold strokes.
The reason for doing this is that there is a grain on a canvas, and the paint doesn't sit so well on the first layer. It's got a little tiny bit of hair on the first layer, so we need to cover the canvas straight away with just something to fill in these little gaps, because as you notice, I'm going across there, it's leaving little tiny bits behind from where the canvas isn't taking the paint entirely. Well, this is quite a good canvas, so it does seem to make it almost quite nice round going up here, because I did notice when I was looking at the reference point that it's very less blue than it is brown in many places. So that's why this is going in here. Even though it's water, there's obviously reflections from the bank. So got this blue here, but it's turning into a sort of a green towards the top, and then we'll bring more of this blue in at the bottom. Now obviously at the moment the duck isn't even anywhere in sight because we haven't even done that, but it is nice just to get a basic colour down. We finished the undercoat, and now what I've done is I put a sort of the dark areas and the dark shades, but generally got the shape of a duck in underneath that, but I've kept it broken up because I don't want at this stage in the painting for it to become too defined. So there's lots of movement in here, and I'm still using the large brush. Essentially, we're not going to put any light shades in yet because it's sometimes easier to work these dark areas first. As you notice, the water is no longer just blue. I'm using some water here to take some of the colour off, almost to lighten it there. See the effect? As I use the water on the acrylic, as you might use a thinner in oil painting, you can use water to remove some of the colour from the picture, and we get this kind of interesting sort of pattern that I'm forming across the piece. Now you'll be careful not to take too much off, so just put it all on there, but these areas are essentially the dark bits of the duck, and I've kept them in kept them not using black once again. So the mixture is, if we come in nice and close, so let's zoom in. It's a bit hard to tell with the lighting in here, but that's not actually a black. That's mostly purple and reds. But as you can see, there is a sort of a vague shadow of a duck forming, and this will be a wood duck when it's finished. They're quite distinctive. The area here is going to be sort of a blue purpley colour, and there's going to be some quite striking blue feathers along its back, startling eye colour, and this is going to be quite nice and yellow and orange when it's done. But as we say, it's at the beginning stages, and it's alright for it to be messy like this. So I'll come back to you when I've completed the next stage. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. I've been working on giving this water sort of abstract feel. First off, what I did was I used this 1-inch brush that I mixed in this kind of yellowy red colour, which I mixed with the white, and carried on mixing that with the white and the blue across the canvas so I could mix it in. Then brought in areas of lightness here across like this, built up in layers as we go, and keeping it wet. And we have to work very quickly, which is part of the reason why I couldn't be talking whilst showing you it. So you have to work very fast. Then after all of that, after it was still wet, just because the lines were going to be quite harsh, and this is one of the issues with painting in acrylic, that if you're not fast, it will dry before you can affect it. Taking a very large brush, add in extra water and extra shapes to cut into the picture to give it some movement and stop it feeling quite so harsh. Now the water's still not entirely finished yet, but it's a lot brighter and a lot less harsh and dull than it was before. As you see, we've also put in the blue here from the for the feathers, and marked in some of the areas of white. Now these areas are still a bit scrubby in my opinion. I don't really like how they're sitting, but if we worked on it too much while it's wet, we're just going to move paint around on the canvas. So what I've done is just essentially marked in where these bits are going to be, and we can build them up bit by bit until they become as bright as we want. Remember, with acrylic paint, you have the ability just to keep putting layers on top of itself, which means you can build up the brightness over time rather than having to do it all at once, which is far superior. This area here, for instance, is going to be quite drastically white. Doesn't need to be quite so much down here because these are in the reflection, so I've left that quite bland. But we're still keeping a fairly abstract feel to it. It's got an impressionistic essence going on, and I'll leave it to dry for a bit, and then I'll come back and do some more work on it. Okay, I've come back, and what I've done is I've worked on the water some more. I wasn't really liking how dark the water was looking, and it didn't feel glistening and full of light. So what I've done is I've worked on that a lot. As you see, I've been working on making the water almost cubist in a way. There's lots of angular shapes that I brought into it, using the brush to create these squares that cut in to the image, mixing some slight angles as well as straight up and down strokes, just because I want to break up some of the shape and give the feeling that this is reflection rather than just another upside down duck. Which means I have broken into some of the picture, but that's okay because we can fix that later. The great thing about the acrylic, of course, is that it allows you to go over areas you've already gone on, which allows for constant adjustments. I quite like this blue crest on top of the duck that we can sort of almost allow to move into the, break some of that out. I may also work on this area here because this definitely needs to be a lot brighter and a lot more orange, and also echo the patterns that we're producing in the rest of the picture to balance the image. At some point we're going to come in and put that eye in, but that doesn't need to be done yet. Okay, well, we finally finished the painting. had to take a couple of days break because I came down with a horrible flu, but still, as you see, what I've done is I've worked on the water some more and the rest of the painting. If we zoom in a little, you'll see the detail because it's quite hard to see from here. But as you see, I've laid out almost squares and cubes in the water. Here we're sort of layering different colours of paint that produce this kind of almost ripply water effect. So if we come out, you'll see at a distance we get the real feel that there's real water and movement there. Coming closer here, we see we have worked on where the eye is. This essentially was just I used a very small brush, which I don't normally do, but in this case I felt it was necessary to do the eye. And all these spots on the duck's belly also done just with a little normal standard brush. Zoom in in comparison to what I'd normally use. This is a C10, but it does produce a very tight point at the end, which is exactly what you need. And that's the first painting finished. I think it's very nice, and I hope the customer will too. After I've done this, on to the next one, which I think is going to be a pinetail. I hope you've enjoyed my my demonstration, and if you'd like to commission me to paint you a picture too, of any subject you like, I'm happy to do so. You can have a look on my website and check out the prices, or just email me and we'll discuss what you need.